Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Wake Up Heavy is a Wherein I media podcast.
Looking good, Mr. Carter.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. In this episode, my weird dad will be talking about...
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Heavy, Recollections of Horror. This is Mark Begley, your host, and it has been quite some time, or it feels like it's been quite some time, since I did one of these episodes, and this isn't even really one of these episodes. I'm not going to go through my watch list for the past 5 months. The last one of these I did, or the last watch list episode I did, was back in December for November's watches. Cleo did not join me for that one. And there was a bunch of stuff going on at that time that ended up not forcing, but creating this need to take a break, which I was fighting against for a while. I kept thinking about doing the December watch episode with Cleo since she was on Christmas break, and we just watched movies instead. So anyway, I haven't done one of these in a while. There's a lot of reasons why I haven't done a lot of other recording as well, and I'm going to get into all that stuff on this. So, if that doesn't interest you, maybe stop this episode and go watch a movie or something. I do have some very basic movie recommendations and favorites from last year and from the past 4 or so months to get into at the end, but this is really just a catch-up episode. So some of the stuff that started, damn it, I'm going to get notifications on here from my fucking phone, and it's going to drive me nuts. I'm recording a little differently these days, and that's part of the stuff that I'm going to get into. But starting in November, that is when Mike, Chris, and I started recording the From the Files of Police Squad shows. We had it spaced out real nicely, weekly recording, way far enough in advance to where I was not going to get jammed up with editing. It was my idea for the show, so I took on the editing responsibilities for it. Those weren't going to be released until January. They're all out now if you have missed that somehow, and I will link that in the notes for this episode. So all 10 episodes are out. We started with Airplane, did all the episodes of Police Squad, and then went into the Naked Gun series. We did a special episode for the projection booth on Top Secret, which was the movie from ZAZ that came in between the show and the movies. All that stuff is available. Check it out if you haven't already. And so there was enough time, I felt, where I wasn't going to get overwhelmed with the editing, and that is basically how it turned out. I got a little jammed up towards the end and maybe put off editing as quickly as I could have, but, stuff started piling up. At the same time, my friend Ronnie and I were prepping for the start of our show, Cambridge and Washan. Again, if you don't know about that, it is available as well on WhereInWayMedia.com, as is From the Files of Police Squad and is this show. So if you look that up, it'll take you to the Spreaker page for the network, and you can find all of those shows and a bunch of other stuff on there, which gets mentioned on nearly every episode of every show these days. Hey, if anybody hears, if you listen to a Weirding Way show like Projection Booth or Culture Cast or even any of my shows, let me know if you hear an ad for either Wake Up Heavy or Cambridge and Washan. They're supposed to be playing on there in those ad breaks. Supposed to get preference, but I haven't yet to hear one. Back to Cambridge and Washan. That is a monthly show. We record it sometime the month prior, which goofs me up because all of my watch list stuff is always the month before. I guess I like confusing myself, but anyway, that also started in January. We're up to episode 5 now, and give it a listen.
Cambridge and Washan is a Weirding Way media podcast.
If you want to support me, those episodes also get put up on my Patreon page, ad-free and early, generally a week before the release. Cambridge and Washan releases every first Tuesday of the month, barring any unforeseen circumstances, which hasn't happened yet. The shows and then my workload, it felt like I was, and this is my real job, my real work, felt like I was taking on aspects of about 3 other employees' work during that time, and I still feel that way, and I really don't like that. Because I ain't getting paid for those 3 other people's jobs. That became a source of stress. I've just been busy, really hard to find a chunk of time during the day to carve out to record anything. And then I've always had a pretty even keel outlook on life. Haven't really been fortunate to not really suffer from major stress or anxiety or mental health issues. But man, since the pandemic and just stuff recently in the news, all these politicians trying to revoke rights for people, the mass shootings, it's taking a toll. And I mean, my God, yesterday, I think this week, there have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 mass shootings already, 2 back-to-back in Texas. And I unfortunately saw the video that's circulating of the latest shooting in Texas, in Allen, Texas, of bodies piled up at this outlet. I'm absolutely horrifying, hideous stuff. And I don't understand what is going on in our country. And it's sickening and saddening. That's been weighing on my mind since the move to Spreaker. The plays for Wake Up Heavy have decreased significantly. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it could be disinterest in what I'm putting out. It could be quality of show I'm putting, I don't know what audience members are thinking about things. Spreaker is set up a lot differently than SoundCloud, and I would get a lot of erroneous plays via SoundCloud. The issue with iTunes is still a problem. If you have ad blockers on your computer, you're not going to be able to listen to any of my shows on iTunes because of security reasons. They block shows with ads, or your ad blocker will block a show with ads, and every single Weirding Way media show opens with an ad. That was disheartening. So that kind of, all that stuff just jumbled up to say, hey, take a break. And I did. It's been nice. So
Give me a break, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
I mentioned that Cleo wasn't really interested in doing our December watches, and I can't blame her because I thought we might do it the day after New Year's because my wife was back at work that day, and we had watched a bunch over Christmas weekend. But I didn't even bring it up again. I do, like I said earlier, let's just watch movies to set her up, to set me up, to record and edit. It's starting to feel, when something starts to feel like homework or like work, then I generally take a step back. And that's also why I didn't do any of my best of stuff just online. Like I didn't create a list on Letterboxd of my top watches for 2022. I saw a ton of people doing that on Twitter. And every time I saw one, I was like, I just don't have the energy to do that. I don't have the energy to look through my Letterboxd list and pick those movies out. I don't have the energy to create a music mix like I did last year on Spotify. Doing that stuff felt like homework to me, or work, real work. And my brain just was like, no, fuck that. You're not getting paid for this. If it's not immediately feeling like fun, then don't do it. I just had to follow my brain on these things. The other thing that happened, which I'm a little surprised about, well, maybe not so surprised, is I got burned out on horror movies.
That doesn't sound right.
After, God, at least 10 years of watching a horror movie almost every single day of the week, I was finding myself watching other things. Some of that is due to the other shows, because I was watching, of course, all the Police Squad stuff, all the movies. So that was 5 movies, the show, and other stuff dealing with Cambridge and with Sean. I got hooked on Saturday Night Live because all of that show is on Peacock. And I realized, I've never really watched those first 4 or 5 seasons in total. Talk about that on that episode of Cambridge and with Sean, where I discuss my childhood obsession with Saturday Night Live. And so I was doing that during the day while I was working. And even when I wasn't working, that's slowed down a little bit, but I'm up to the end of season 2. I do plan on getting those first seasons with that original cast watched by the end of the year. And again, looking for new stuff to watch that I haven't seen before that I was interested in felt like a chore. And that's another thing I hate is yard work. So if you're reminding me of yard work, real work, or homework, fuck it. I don't want to do it. So I got a little burned out on horror and had a few ideas bumping around in my head for single episodes, to do shorter episodes, not the full length, in-depth stuff, but more like the why didn't I rent this, or new to me discoveries. And again, just didn't feel like putting the work in. It's good to take a break if you feel that way about something. And sometimes those breaks just keep going. I don't anticipate that. There's already a few things on Shudder right now that I'll get to towards the end here that I'm very interested in, and may generate the thought of doing an episode about them. So the only thing I really did was look at my letterbox for the highest rated movies, new movies of last year, and picked 3 of them. So these are my 3 top new 2022 watches from last year. I've talked about all 3 of these films in one way or another. The first is, of course, Peter Strickland's Flux Gourmet.
Let's continue our investigation into an array of interculinary disciplines,
which I believe is still on Shudder and might be available elsewhere, like on Tubi or something. I saw it pop up on one of my searches recently on another platform. So if you don't have Shudder and it's on Tubi, watch it, man. What are you waiting for? And then Jordan Peele's Nope, which ended up being an episode with Culture Cast. I believe I released that one too. We talked about all 3 of Jordan Peele's films. And then Crimes of the Future, Cronenberg's return, quote unquote, to horror, which was also a Culture Cast crossover episode and is available on both of our shows. The other thing I discovered is, well, I didn't discover it. I saw people posting about this on Twitter. Letterboxd has some new categories for your watch history. My watch history is a little funky. I started Letterboxd in 2019, but I didn't log films. I just created lists. So you have to log films in your diary for them to generate stats. I think it was last year that I finally went pro with Letterboxd because it's relatively cheap and it generates all kinds of stats for you, which of course I didn't use at the end of last year. But the new things that I found interesting were they show how many weeks in a row you've watched at least one movie a day. And I saw people posting this and they had well over like 5 years or something like that. So I had 108 weeks, a little over 2 years, where I watched a movie every year.
I believe Mark meant every day.
I think if that went back to 2019, it would be closer to 4 years. And of course, if I had Letterboxd prior to that, it would probably be more. But that's 2 full years of a movie, at least one movie every day, uninterrupted. And I know that that's gone down as of recently. And then the other stat that I found interesting was 374 days of watching at least 2 films. Again, that would be more if my stats included 2019 or 2018 when I started Wake Up Heavy. I mean, that could be in the 600s, but still, that's a full year of watching at least 2 movies a day. Not back to back necessarily. That's the other stat. I did log 416 diary entries. My watch list for 2023 says 389 films.
I believe Mark meant 2022.
So I believe that means, there's 20 or so movies, and probably fewer than that I watched multiple times. I can't add those to my list. I can add them to the diary, but once you add a film to a list, like this is what I watched during the year, it won't keep adding it. And that's more than the prior year. So I did do a lot of movie watching last year. It was just a little bit maybe more varied than strictly horror. My top watches so far of this year, from January to pretty recently, maybe just the end of April. Maybe I included some May watches, I'm not sure. This is rewatches, new watches, stuff that I've been meaning to watch or trying to watch for a while. And the 2 biggies, these 2 have been on my list for years, are Cruising, William Friedkin's controversial and extremely confusing movie with Al Pacino as an undercover cop exploring the leather bar scene in New York City because of these murders that have been happening. I think most horror fans know this, but if you don't know, there is a really weird connection between this film and The Exorcist. Look that up. It's fascinating because there is a person in The Exorcist who is a convicted murderer, and it's not what Cruising is based on, but there's still an interesting connection there. Not Friedkin's best, but it was pretty fascinating. I can understand the controversy as well as the confusion. And I think some of the confusion is on purpose, but a lot of it isn't because it got hacked to pieces. Oh, that was a bad choice of words.
Oh, that's tacky. That's really tacky.
The other one that I've been wanting to watch for a long time is My Bodyguard. Both of these are on HBO Max, so I was going to include that in my programming alert, but there you go. I may reiterate that a little bit. Alan Ormsby scripted high school kid standing up to bullies. It's got Matt Dillon, Chris Makepeace. Oh, and I forget the guy's name. That's in Full Metal Jacket. I'll have my AI assistant fix that.
That actor's name is Adam Baldwin.
Loved that movie. Ruth Gordon's in it. Martin Mull. Used to watch it all the time when it would show up on TV. Probably rented it later on when we got a VCR and or saw it on HBO. Love it, love it, love it. Haven't seen it in years. Totally holds up. Great stuff. It is still on HBO Max, possibly HBO as well. Watch it.
Moody, I'd like you to meet my bodyguard.
And then because of all the Saturday Night Live stuff for Cambridge and with Sean and watching the show, I had to watch 1941, found it. It was streaming on Crackle, not my favorite platform, got a lot of ads. It looked great. I still love that movie. I think it totally holds up. I don't care what anybody says. The critics lambasted it when it came out. It just really, really works for me. Probably the first movie that I saw any Saturday Night Live people in. But yeah, I mean, go listen to that episode if you want to hear me talk more about it. I didn't double check to see if it was still on Crackle, but if you've never seen it and have avoided it because you've heard bad things about it, ignore that and go watch it.
Tracking a jet squatter for a day and a half. I lost him somewhere over Fresno.
A couple new films that topped our list, and these were family watches. The Menu with Anya Taylor-Joy, a favorite of mine. Very good. Also on HBO Max, I believe. We watched Puss in Boots, the new one, together, and one of the best animated films I've seen in a great deal of time. We all loved it. That is streaming somewhere currently, Peacock or Paramount. I get the two P streaming services confused. I did watch Skinamarink. That created a lot of buzz when it was playing festivals.
Skinamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skinamarink-a-doo means I love you.
It's a fascinating exercise in filmmaking. I wouldn't call it necessarily experimental, but it's pretty interesting. I would only suggest watching it in the middle of the night with all of the lights out to get the full effect, which I didn't do. But yeah, it's interesting. Can't really say that I liked it necessarily. I don't know when I'll get back to it, but it is a fascinating film to experience. As a family, we watched the new Christmas horror film Violent Night. I think we actually watched it after Christmas. Enjoyed that quite a bit. So Cleo and I watched Sick, which I don't know if that came up on the last one of these I did or not. I don't think so. I think we watched that during Christmas break, and it was good. I liked it. It's from the guy that wrote the first couple of Scream films. It takes place at the beginning of the pandemic, so that plays a part in it. Ended up really enjoying it. We've watched Megan twice because the first time we watched it, it was just the PG-13 version, and then Peacock or Paramount Plus, I'm not sure which one, released the unrated version. So we were like, yep, we'll watch it again. Let's see the extra gore. And a few things were cut out as well, which was odd. So I'm not really sure which version I prefer. I'd have to watch them back to back, I think, or in close succession. I caught Cooley High, which I've seen little bits and pieces of. TCM plays it pretty regularly. Caught that, and I think my wife and daughter got home, and we just ended up finishing out the movie. My wife got inspired by the soundtrack. I really enjoyed it. During one of our teen movie watches that we seem to have every once in a while, we watched Can't Buy Me Love, and then I suggested Lucas, which was a favorite of mine. That played constantly on cable back in the day.
You know, if I was you, I wouldn't stick around to see the movie. You understand me, Luca Plakia?
Early Corey Haim and Charlie Sheen roles, one of those underdog teen movies. We watched some Wes Anderson, and the only one that was new to me was Isle of Dogs, his second stop-motion film. I'm a Wes Anderson stan. I love his stuff, and we've watched, I think, most of his films as a family, and the new one looks amazing. If he's not your bag, I get it. I get the whole style thing. The very twee aspect of his films can be off-putting for some people, but man, oh man, looks like the shit to me. We also watched Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which was a delight if you want a feel-good film. I don't know that you can find much better in recent memory. I believe it's playing on Showtime. And then we also watched as a family Boston Strangler on Hulu with Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon. Love Carrie Coon. It was good, but they cop a lot from Zodiac.
Just then when the hurdy-gurdy man came singing songs of love.
That's all I kept thinking about when we were watching it. I want to watch Zodiac, which we did as a family. Talk about a perfect movie. And then one other film that I've been trying to watch forever, trying to track down, it's never streaming anywhere, is The Vanishing with Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland. This is a remake, and I have seen the original. It's even harder to track down. I think that might be on Criterion. The American version is, of course, Americanized with a happy ending. This is one of those interesting cases, I think, like Funny Games and maybe some of the Japanese horror films where the original director helmed the American remake as well. I like it because Jeff Bridges is really fucking weird in this. And I really like what they do with the Nancy Travis character in this. She has a lot of agency at the end of the film and flips the tables on Jeff Bridges. And I don't recall if that's how the original goes or not. It's been so long since I've seen it. Kiefer Sutherland's kind of not great in the film, but other than that, I enjoy it. I know that I prefer the original in this case, which isn't always the case. Yeah, it's just been so long since I've seen it. Okay, well, that should wrap this up. I don't want to go too long. I'm sure this isn't the most exciting episode that I've ever done, and that's fine. If you made it this far, thank you.
That's fine.
I mentioned the programming alert at the beginning, so there are a few things out now streaming that I think people should check out. Well, streaming and then one physical release that people should definitely check out. So Martin, the George Romero film, is on Tubi, and I decided to check it out yesterday. I didn't watch it, but this is a movie that's on my list of episodes to do, and I actually have guest hosts for it. Just haven't gotten around to setting that up. My recording schedule is a little more restrictive right now, and most people that I record with can only record in the evenings, and that's just become very tough for me to do. So anyway, that is on my list. That is one of the things that I had written down back when I first started thinking about Wake Up Heavy, actually. So it is streaming on Tubi. It got a release in the UK and I think other territories recently. I don't know when it'll ever be released in the US on Blu-ray because the rights holders just want too much money to license the film out here. So it's on Tubi, but it's not in the correct aspect ratio. It's actually supposed to be the 4:3 aspect ratio, like your old TV set. Well, for some of you may not have been alive when we had square TVs, but that's the original aspect ratio. It might still be on YouTube though, because there is no actual release in the States. And this is a case where I would say, just go ahead and watch it there, man. I mean, no one's making any money off this here anyway, but it is also on Tubi. I'd almost, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, suggest the YouTube version since it is in the correct aspect ratio. Fear No Evil showed up on Shudder probably at the end of last year, maybe more recent. This is a movie that I've brought up in the past. It is a movie that I wanted to do a spotlight episode on because it is extremely interesting. I often pair it with Evil Speak as part of that 80s satanic panic where bullied teens summon the devil, or in this case, might be the devil or the son of the devil. It's featured pretty heavily in the Queer for Fear documentary series on Shudder. I think shortly after that show came out, Shudder got it. Because I was thinking, if you're showing this pretty extensively on this show, it must mean it's coming back, and it did. I haven't watched it again yet, which is why there's no episode on it, but I plan to. And Evil Speak is still on Shudder, so watch that double feature, like I always suggest.
Fear no evil. It'll scare the devil out of you. Rated R, coming soon.
And then just today, two films popped up. One that I talked about just a little bit less than a year ago, because I watched it a little less than a year ago. Poison for the Fairies, a Mexican film. If you want to hear me kind of rave about that, I'll link that May episode from last year. Another film by the same director, Darker Than Night. Those both showed up on Shudder today. And I started the Poison for the Fairies because I wanted to see if it was the correct aspect ratio, and it is. And it looks like a pretty good copy. So I don't know if those were recently released on a new Blu-ray or something, but they've got both of those, and I plan to watch Darker Than Night. It's been on my IMDb watch list for I don't know how long. If it's half as fascinating as Poison for the Fairies, then I will most likely dig it. Poison for the Fairies, though, is great. Well, go listen to that, and you'll see kind of what I compare it to. I already mentioned that Cruising and My Bodyguard are on HBO Max. The Vanishing, if I didn't say that, is also on HBO Max. Watch all three of those. Maybe not at the same time. My Bodyguard and Cruising are very different in tone. And then the big news, there had been plans for Simon Fitzjohn and I to get together again to talk about this. I announced it, I believe, on the last watch list episode, that November episode I did. The Haunting of Julia finally has a physical release after 7 years of Simon trying to sort out the rights issue. That finally came to fruition last October. They were working on the restoration for it already. So it has a physical release, Blu-ray and 4K. So in the States, it's from Shout Factory. In the UK, it's put out by BFI. And in Australia, Imprint, who did that great Barfly set that I probably mentioned on that episode, they have it. I don't know what territories each one of these covers. I know that Shout Factory is probably US and Canada. BFI, I'm not sure how far they extend, if it's just the UK or if it's Europe. So you have multiple opportunities. If you've got a region-free player, you can buy all three. I think some of the extras are exclusive to each disc. Each one of the discs comes with a lot of great stuff, and Simon and director Richard Long Crane do a commentary, which is available on all three, and then all the extra stuff. I know Simon and the director had a showing in the UK, and I'm not sure where it took place, but a showing of the film. So, and it'll probably start popping up in theaters. The restoration wasn't just for getting it out on Blu-ray, but to get the film out to theaters. So it'll be interesting to see where that starts popping up. If you're in a big city that has a great repertory cinema, you might get the chance to see it on film. That would be awesome. I frickin' might even make a trip to LA if that happens. Probably not, big plans, but I generally never do anything like that.
Do you know what murder is, Mrs. Lifton? It is an eternal crime.
Oh, the one thing that I forgot to mention early on that has been really frustrating me is the sound of my show. And I have been talking about this on Cambridge and with Sean. I did a little test this past weekend to see how far back it extends. And I'm not just talking about my scratchy voice, because it's already getting scratchy right now and gets gunky and stuff when I talk for too long. There's been this cracking that happens, and I discovered that it pretty much goes all the way back to when I started using Audacity to edit the show. Did figure out what the problem is. I'll get into that on the next episode of Cambridge and with Sean. I hope I've solved it. That was another thing that was really frustrating me, that kind of stopped me from wanting to do a lot of recording. Hopefully this sounds much better than most recent stuff that I've done. And I would notice that I sounded fine when I was on somebody else's recording. So I was like, well, what am I doing that they're not? I figured it was the crappy microphone, the gamer headset that I was using for ease of use. I'm back on my Blue Snowball, which wasn't the problem, but should sound better as well. Did a couple other things, didn't solve it. I solved it immediately after finishing up the last episode of Cambridge and with Sean, and going forward, everything should hopefully sound a whole hell of a lot better. If not, I apologize. But I think that covers kind of what I wanted to talk about this go around. Wish I could say I had something specific planned. If you're craving content, I did record some episodes with Chris over at the Culture Cast for 2 Kevin Smith films, Red State and Tusk, which I enjoyed much more this second time watching it. So those are over on the Culture Cast. I mean, it hasn't been like months and months. We did the Knock at the Cabin episode. I've done those with him. We have the Murder by Death episode that came out in February. I feel like I've been absent longer and more than is probably really true. There's stuff out there. Go listen to Cambridge and with Sean, please. I'd love it if we could get some subscribers. We have not even hit 200 plays across 5 episodes. It's fine. It's maybe too niche for a wide audience, but we talk about some fun stuff. Ronnie's a good co-host, and we have a lot of fun talking together. New one will be out in June, first Tuesday of June. We should be recording that soon. Other than that, stay safe, be smart, be careful, and have a great 2023. Thanks as always for listening, and don't forget,
Anything can happen when you wake up heavy. Ho, 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 ho.
Wake Up Heavy is a Weirding Way media podcast.
Looking good, Mr. Carter.